Hello, good morning. I hope you are fine and saw my message that I have to make a recording of today's lecture and meet with you in person Thursday. Yeah, the Porto program has started. Applications are up, and you can go in there and apply for Porto if you would want to. There's also Scotland, Ireland, England, Madrid, in the Caribbean with different types of courses. So you can look through everything. Of course, I would love to see you in Porto. You're completely welcome to apply and get the application going if you're interested in study abroad. I think it's worth all your effort and it's worth the money because it just is. It's a great experience. Okay, so for today, I'm going to make a little lecture for you here. And one of the things I wanted to do was to just point out some of the key parts to the rest of this chapter 4 before we move on to chapter 5. In chapter 5, everything picks up a little speed, I think. The midterm will be chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. So we're getting towards that middle part of the first part of the course. And we want to take a look at what's left in chapter 4 before we move on. And bring this up. Of course, this is familiar to you. We already kind of looked at neuron, looked at growth, looked at patterns of growth, rate of growth. And one of the things I want you to try to do today, and I'll look at some of these PowerPoints with you also, but is do an activity called infant habituation. So you'll click on that and it's a bit of instruction. It's probably about 10, 12 minutes, I forget. It is my single a viral video. For some reason, it has about 6,000 views on it. And I think the people who made the video monetized it for themselves. I don't think you can make a lot of money on 6,000 views, but I did play it once and saw a commercial, and I was like, oh, I'm making money. But yeah, you can't do that way apparently. But it is well watched, and I think it's because it's fairly well done. And I made it for CCGA, so there you go. I want you to go in and look at that video. We'll talk about it on Thursday a little bit, and it is a good demonstration of infant habituation. So, what are these research methodologies can you use? What can you use on these little babies? This baby's just 4 months old, yet demonstrates a learning principle using the technique of habituation. And you'll be able to participate a little bit on the video with some prompts that I've put on there for you. Welcome to my lair. I'm here recording at home. Let's take a look at the PowerPoint. Everything's a little condensed here because of this ridiculous, I don't know what this does. Here. Yeah, that's fine. Just go with the flow here. I've had a little bit of technology issues with my screen recorder this morning. And I'm sure if we were in class, you'd say, Dr. Bloom, you got to move this over. That's not bad. That's not bad. That's better than it was. We already talked about this stuff. I just want to get you to these slides so that we can make sure we covered the material. I remember we did the little exercise. We held out our hands and we looked at not dominance of hand or leg or ear of eye, rather not lateralization of what belongs in each half of the brain in terms of emergence of different skills. So we say that the right hemisphere, as you recall, is responsible for finding faces in a scene. And so when you look at a front of a house and a face emerges, that's your right hemisphere pressing into your consciousness the vision of a face rather than a house. You'll notice that, of course, all the time once you start thinking about it. We talked a little bit about the dominance of eye, which we did this exercise, whether what you focused on once you closed one eye and another eye was what you thought you were focusing on or off to the side, not visible. what you're focusing on or off to the side. So I am right-handed, yet I focus with if I was to center my own face, this is fun. If I center my own face, oops, and close my eye, it makes no difference because it's on the camera. That is interesting. But it would flip so that I would only be able to see the object centered with my left eye because I use my left eye to center and to focus. Let's take a look at some of these other 3/4 slides here. We talked about, the importance of breastfeeding. We don't need to go through it again. There's different types of malnutrition. Generally, if you don't have enough protein and fat, you're in big trouble when you're a baby. So breast milk will make its own perfect mixture of being either watery and thin for times that the baby has a cold, is less hungry, and as the baby starts to eat more with breastfeeding, the actual mother's breast milk will become more fat-laden and caloric to support the growing baby. Can't really do that with bottle feeding. The assumption is that the baby is getting correct nutrients and eating as much as it would want or not want. I think we're pretty clear that most of us grow up fine on formulas. Formulas are an interesting historical invention. If you take infant child with me, I would think it'd be a good comparison to look at European formulas and American ones, Canadian ones. I mean, what are different countries doing to make the ingredients for formula? Our formulas work fine. I mean, I'm a formula baby. I think a lot of you perhaps were also. This is about operant conditioning, and you'll look at this baby doing habituation, which is this slide here. Now, habituation is super interesting. You can habituate a baby to an object. So if I show a baby on a screen, an object going across their vision, if I'm the baby, I'm sitting in a car seat in a lab, and I'm looking at a screen, and an object is coming across my field of vision, all right, it goes across, and then it comes across again, and I keep doing this, until you habituate to get bored from it. So you're no longer staring at it, almost as if to tell the adults, I get it. I don't need to see it again. I know that looks like that object. They don't know what it is, but you get the idea. So how can I tell if you can tell what a different object shape is? Oops. All I need to do is for one of the passes to switch it up and have a different object on the screen. Now, if the baby starts to reorient, meaning reorient, look, and become brightened of face, we know that they have, quote unquote, noticed the change. So we can use habituation to do really subtle experiments with learning. We can change the color. Oh, so this is a queen. I'll get the other queen. So if I have this queen go across the screen, and then I have this queen, it's still a queen, it's the same shape, but if they can sense or perceive the color, then they would be able to respond in a more, again, alert, oriented, sort of, they call this open face stare, like they're interested again in looking at an object again with their eyes open. So habituation is a fantastic technique. And again, watch that little video with the chili pepper. That will make sense in a moment. Sorry, again, this is goofy, but I think we already looked at the grip. I started to talk a little bit about musical phrasing, and I saw an article, I read a little something in the news the other day about the importance of musicality being introduced. I don't just think of it as musicality, I think of it in terms of rhythm, right? So we teach babies in English phonemes. Remember we talked about really long, like Japanese, like hajime mashite being one word. So if that is one word, it's a long word in Japanese, and you might expect that songs for babies would have a longer word type phrasing. We tend to have, my Japanese instructor said, that is difficult for Japanese people to learn English because all of our words are very short. That's true, right? Uh, how are you today is not one sound system. Well, it kind of is, right? But it is a series of small words. And just as hard for us to learn these long ones. But in English speaking language, what we do is we introduce little babies to rhythmic pattern wording, like ba, ba, sorry, me, ba, ba, black sheep, have you any wool? Is a lot like the way we speak, right? Hi, how are you doing today? uh, is a very ba black sheep. So by introducing little clapping games, singing to them, introducing patterns, not of just of phonemes, but also of rhythm of English language. Yeah, it's really interesting to think about. And maybe I'll try to find a Japanese lullaby and listen to it and see if I can find some of these, their own patterns of speaking, as you could with any language, of course. Okay, so I've also know that there's some research that if you looked at this cliff, I guess we stopped here. That if you have a lot of rhythmic types of singing, songs, and rhythm making in the home, some of your homes are very rhythm focused, and some of your homes are not. Some of you sing to babies, and some of you do not. But there might be some value in doing this, not only for early language development, but also for later reading development, where again, you're entering little patterns of speech making that if you have a rhythmic background, it's going to be easier for you to learn to read. We looked at the visual cliff. You looked at the new one for that. Again, babies really like photos of faces with eyes open and direct gazes. And I already mentioned that they really like your face. We don't have to go back into that, but just keep that in mind. They're studying your face. Isn't that beautiful to prefer the detailed facial features of the mother? And of course, it would be to a sibling or any parent, um, any grandparent, but memorizing the contours of your face to slowly build up a sense of recognition and giving a social smile, which happens around let's see, week 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there. Excuse me. Okay, so we're finishing out this chapter. I feel pretty secure that we've covered it well. I do want to talk about the material for 2 or 3 more minutes here that you're going to be able to look at the inside the course itself. So we can look at the habituation. I'll check this. It looks like it's actually there and working fine. If you're interested in trying the student Kennedy Ralph's exercise, go ahead. Not required, but if you want to put a little bit more time. And wow, that feels really good to get through chapter 4 like that. It kind of is a fast chapter. As we move forward, we get into some really meaty material. Language, I introduced you to Noam Chomsky on Thursday. And we already looked at the visual cliff, but make sure you know that Gibson and Walk were the people that developed the first historic visual cliff. And I think I said it was Patricia Kuhn, but it's Patricia Kuehl who did the TED Talk that we looked in class on baby's linguistic genius. Trying to see if there's something here you might want to look at. It might be good to look over, there's a cooing, compilation, and babbling. Why don't you look at those two before we meet on Thursday? So between this video, you're reading of the chapter a little bit more today and doing the exercise. That is the infant habituation. You should have a lot of material for today and move forward. All right, take care. Again, I got to go do this stuff, and I will see you on Thursday. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, bye.